Listen up, I told you to pull back from AI slop, to use that noggin of yours, and manually do your trade in Europa Universalis V. But I've realised I pleaded with you, but didn't tell you how and to what extent that you should. And you certainly let me know. I'm always one to listen, so we're going to rectify that. And if you don't learn anything, I'll consume something far, far worse than a bounty, a heinous Brussels sprout. So let's crack on. Just a quick recap of the previous video. Go watch it quickly if you haven't. Manual trade allows you to maximize profit, spread institutions, and gives you a hell of a lot more situational advantages, but we'll get onto that later. I've been thinking, these reasons should maybe just be reclassified as opportunities, times and places to revoke automation, rather than just a full ban. Ultimately, the choice is yours, so you need to know what to do. So it's quite simple. Press economy, navigate to trading, and choose some good ones. And boom, you're done. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Kidding, obviously. I think we all know it's not that simple, but you should subscribe. It's a good first step. So, diving in, you've just loaded up a game. I find it's best to let the automation have at least 1 month to tick through and have a go at your trade of your nation. This allows you to see a baseline, to figure out what the AI can achieve, so you can compare your own achievements to that and figure out whether you're doing well or not. And as you can see, the AI isn't doing a very good job at the moment, only making 7.5 trade income, and that's mostly because they're trying to do trades above the capacity of what we can do as a country. And this is a key issue, not just for your automation, but also for you if you're trying to manually do your trades. As especially in the early game, there's no guarantee you're going to be the strongest trading power in your node. You can check this by navigating to markets in the bottom, clicking on the market that you want to check, whether it's your home market or another one, navigating to countries and sorting by trade advantage. As you can see here, we have 10.21 trade advantage in our home node of Genoa. That's 4th place, below Provence, Pisa and Genoa. That means that we have the 4th priority access to the goods in the node, and the countries above us can outcompete us. So how the hell, other than just increasing our trade advantage, can we do manual trade through this lens? Well, the truth is, the AI will obviously prioritize these really high value trades, and they'll fight over them. So by taking a step down, you can often find a gap in the market where you can make some profit, make some good trades, especially in the short term. Obviously in the long term, it's definitely worth you getting to the top. So let's begin with the basics and we'll fight this issue as we get further into it. So, the basic mechanics. In the main trading tab, the game offers you lots of recommended options with the goal of profit maximization, whether that's imports or exports. Clicking on any one of these will start a trade route with a base value of 1 trade capacity. As you can see, it ports to the top and it will check after a month when it will activate. The generic reason of why you should make a trade is you want to have a cheap resource in your market that you can export to a nearby market where the price is high. And livestock, surprisingly, is a perfect example for us here in this Milan game. It's really cheap in Genoa, being only 0.48 ducats with a market surplus of 16, whereas in Barcelona they have a market deficit of 15 and a massive price of 4.34 ducats. You can edit these suggested trades by increasing the amount of trade capacity you wanted to take by pressing the plus or minus arrows. If you hold shift, it will go to your maximum possible. In this case, our maximum trade capacity is 9.5, so it would take it to that. And the same according to the negative, it would take it to 0. And whilst the base increment that you can change is +1, you can take this down to 0.1 just by holding Alt. So you can make hyper-specific trades if you really want to maximize your objectives and your profit. It also suggests you resources for population needs, such as food and generic requests. These trades can often be a lot less profitable, but they can be a lot more stable when trade advantage is up in the mix, or help you with your population satisfaction or building costs. When you hover over your market, it gives you a brief overview over your greatest surpluses, so what likely you're going to be able to export for high profit, and your greatest needs, so what likely you're going to need to import either for high profit or to make your population happier and more money to go into your estates by making their good demands cheaper. So for these more specific requirements, I recommend doing it fully manually, at least for these specific trades, in the Goods tab of your production module. So you're not relying on AI slop suggestions. You can do any trade you want, whether it's profitable or unprofitable, by just clicking the blue import button or the orange export button. Let's quickly go back to that livestock example we were talking about a second ago. We know it's likely going to be very profitable to export it, not just because the AI showed us so, but because of the high surplus and the high price in the Aragonese market. And it shows us just that when we look in the export map. Not only does it give us a list of places we can export to, but a full map, colour-coded to where it's going to be most profitable. And I wonder where the answer is. But beware, this manual control allows you to make bad decisions too. So we know it's going to be hyper-profitable to export our livestock. But what if we tried to import it? It would be crazy unprofitable. So much so that the trade wouldn't even go through with Barcelona. But we could do one with Constantinople. That would lose us 10 ducats per trade capacity. Madness. So now we've demonstrated that it is in your hands. How do we go about finding a consortium of trades that work together to get you the maximum possible benefit for your nation? Well, given our situation with lots of competitors, I'm going to recommend a bit of a scattergun approach, trying lots of options and seeing what sticks. We're going to start by loading up on the livestock trade, as it looks like that will be very profitable. But whereas this one promises 2.24, I'm not going to believe it, because in the Burgos market, there's no demand and no supply, whereas we actually have demand outstripping supply here. So this trade won't even activate. We'll try some cloth in Paris, as we have a good surplus and they have a high price. A fine cloth import from Tunis to address our big deficit. The same with sugar from Egypt. A small amount of silver from Bordeaux. We have a big surplus of glass, so we'll attempt to export glass to Jadamsan. And finally some paper to Tunis as well. So we've now queued our mini little portfolio of trade. And at the end of the month, it will update and tell us how much money we're actually getting from these trades and whether they're all going through. And we've arrived on the other side, and we've instantly gone up a hell of a lot on our trade income by doing it manually. But not everything is fine and dandy, because we've got some trades that just haven't gone through entirely, and some that are giving us considerably less profit than we had been told initially or wanted. So you now need to tinker, cut out the rot, and see if you can get better, more profitable options. So we can try this Genoese import from Dubrovnik of silver, but oftentimes your best option is just sitting there right in front of you, which we found earlier in the livestock trade. There's such a big gap in that market and we can really fill it. So I'm going to go about cancelling some of our lower value trades and put more weight into the gap in the market that we found in the livestock trade. So time for another time lapse. We've arrived in July and our trade is already looking better, offering us near 22 ducats a month. All our trades are going through successfully, we're making very good profit, and you can see the nitty gritty of the trades by hovering over it. For example, the trade route maintenance that we're losing per month. And just to recap, this all happened because we noticed a giant oversupply in our market and a huge deficit in an adjacent one. So, let's ask ourselves, what would happen if we gave this up and returned it back to the AI? Well, let's find out.
Loading.
Our money has gone down slightly, and we've lost our priority access over the livestock trade. But it has found a pretty good fine cloth trade from Genova to Nuremberg. But as touched on before, we're finally hitting the main issue that automation has, and that is fighting trade advantage. The AI is pretty good if you're the top dog in the market, like Genoa is at the moment. But if you're not, it can obviously run into some issues. So can we use our human side and alleviate this? As you can see, we're trying to export 3.03 fine cloth, when in reality, we're capped at 2.34 because of our trade advantage. So if we reduce the amount we're trying to trade, it gets us closer to that equilibrium mark. And a figure of trade capacity around 3.8 is what we can handle. And we can then put this into other avenues. So if you aren't the top dog in your trade node, how can you increase your trade advantage? Well, we currently get all of our trade advantage from our own locations, essentially our provinces and the buildings that we own. And you don't get any from just having a province, so you need to build this up. The main way to do this quickly is marketplaces that gives one trade advantage, one trade capacity. They buff your burger's trade capacity by 20%, and they give you 0.5% market access. My favourite building in the game, Market Villages, also boosts this up as well, will be only 0.1 trade advantage, 0.1 trade capacity, and 0.5% market access. The only thing that you need to be aware of is that the Black Death is coming, and each trade building that you make buffs plague spread by 20%. However, The other tenet of trade advantage that's really, really strong is maritime presence. As you can see, Genoa is really raking it in through this. And I'm sure most of you know by now, but that's accumulated by your coastal provinces and your navies, and is essentially how control acts over sea zones. If you're a small power, investing in a navy early, especially one of caravels, is really important because of this maritime presence boost. As you can see, we're currently losing 0.29 in my Byzantine game, but if we chuck our navy into the sea zone, we're now getting 0.5, so plus 8 just from the navy. That's humongous. It means that we'll be able to control all of these provinces and have loads of trade advantage in our home node. And probably onto the most major region of why you're going to have to do some manual trade in your games, and that's to port your resources from around the globe into European markets and make bank. Firstly, the easiest way is often to make a few trade offices and directly import some really high value resources into that market. For example, in this Spain game, they have 3 trade offices in this neutral Rome market. That means they can directly import 0.35 trade capacity worth of Chile from Havana, the colonies, straight into the market at a humongous trade profit of 4.15. You can build these trade offices in any location where the owner has at least 100 opinion of us. They give maritime presence, trade advantage, and trade capacity, and these get stronger as the game goes on. You can directly export from your colonies too. For example, in the Havana market, we can export Chile straight to Rennes at a huge trade profit, and cocoa from Havana to Valladolid for a huge profit. And because demands may not be that big in this market alone, we can also use it as a relay node. For example, exporting this Chile further to Bruges, Gdansk, Prague, Berlin, and rake in the monetary rewards. And you can theoretically do this in any node in the entire world, but what I would recommend is you choose one you have a hell of a lot of trade advantage in, so you can decide which trade goes in and which trade goes out. And you can do this not just from exporting it from your colonies, but also importing it from the market itself. As you can see, we can import a huge amount of Chile straight into this market, and at the same time export it around Europe, and just use the same manual trade controls that we talked about earlier. So it brings us on to the ultimate question of how much should we automate and how much should we do manually? And the truth is, it's ultimately up to you. Finding the perfect trade will depend on which nation you're playing, which trade goods you have access to, and a lot more that you need some manual input for, but you also need the AI's help. Especially as you get later into the game, there's so many trade nodes and so much trade capacity, it's impossible to do everything yourself. So you need to find the balance that works to you. Whether you want to cut down on automation a lot, start your own colonial trade funnels, and make a hell of a lot of money than the AI probably would themselves, just focus on a few key trades and let automation handle the rest. Do nothing at all and let the AI have a run at it. Ultimately, my recommendation would be to set up a few key trade funnels of some insane goods from the New World, or Asia, or North Africa, or Siberia, wherever you can get rare resources from. If you can introduce these goods into your market, the AI will have a much easier time if you choose to let it have a full run at the automation. And this doesn't have to stay permanent. You can always rein back in it. For example, if you're having lumber problems and you want to overload your market full of lumber to allow cheaper building costs, even if these problems are caused by your own bloody burgers. So thank you for watching. I hope you finally understand how you can do your trade manually, so I don't have to take a Brussels sprout and ruin my own life. I've focused really hard on the how here, rather than the why, because I went hard onto that in the previous video. Feel free to check it out, it's on screen now. Have a great day. Consider subscribing and leave it a watch. Trust me, it's worth it. It will make you a hell of a lot of money.